G'day legend, welcome to the Noob Spearo podcast. My name is Shrek and I get to interview spearfishing legends from all over the planet every other week. Today it's Joe Pike. He's an absolute gentleman. He's been making spearfishing videos on YouTube for maybe a decade now. He's got more than 150 videos, very talented, very clever guy, very softly spoken and just not egotistical in any way. I really enjoyed having a chat with Joe. I hope you enjoy it as well. We get in and geek out on a couple of Joe's recent videos, including I think his second time to Norway and what they get up to, because he's got a couple of character mates on the trip as well. So very fun. Hey, before we get there, a little bit of sad news, and I think I've missed a few pretty tragic events around. I don't like to dwell on it, but I just want us to all sort of know what happens in the world of spearfishing. Mitigating risk is one thing we love to focus on in the podcast. A couple of people have lost their lives going spearfishing, and I just wanted to mention them. And you can look up these stories and maybe learn a little bit more about it yourself. But Sam Hamilton lost his life tragically off Dawesville in Western Australia as his girlfriend tried to save him. Pretty tragic. And Virgil Price over in Florida, a spearfishing instructor, very well-known guy and from Florida Freedivers and PFI. Obviously, like highly missed in the community. Pretty tragic. And just a reminder to us all just to just to do what we can to mitigate the risk, enjoy this lifestyle, but also like just be aware of what the risks are and what the dangers are. And just wanted to mention those guys and pretty sad event. In other news, the Beyond the Hardline charter trip off Mackay. It's our first one this year, happening in November. 16 spots, all taken. Actually oversold the trip, so is a really nice thing. At the moment, we're in the planning stages of putting together what comps we're going to have on board, and there's been a few ideas up on the Noob Spearo community on Facebook. Get amongst that if you can. I'd love to hear your ideas for what comps we should play on this comp. Hoping to make this thing a regular thing. I've got Tim McDonald, former Australian spearfishing champion, coming to help instruct alongside Tom Sandstrom and myself. Noffis and Smythe from That's Chatter on there as well. It's going to be a mad trip. Looking forward to getting the first one out there and then sort of seeing how soon we can book the next one, I guess, because it seems to be popular. Check them out at spearfishingcourses.com.au. Hey, this podcast with Joe PK brought to you by Legends, patreon.com/Noob Spearo, putting fuel in the outboard one episode at a time. Here we go. Today's Noob Spearo podcast is brought to you in partnership with Adreno. Live it, breathe it with the world's largest dive store. Huge range of equipment, always growing, always changing. They are the world's largest dive store. They are available just about everywhere. They have hassle-free returns, massive range of equipment, price match guarantee, and you can check them out online. You can even use the code NoobSpearo to save $20 on every purchase over $200 at adreno.com.au. Check them out. Boom! Are you US based, looking for freediving, spearfishing gear? Neptonics is the best. Their online website's so easy to use. If you've got any questions, Jerry and the team answer questions via phone, email. Anyway, they've got an easy contact form on the site. These guys are absolute legends, and if they sell it, they believe in it, they back it, they use it themselves. It's tough gear that works. Visit neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10% on any order at neptonics.com. That's right, use the code NOOB10, N-O-O-B 10 on your next order. Save 10% at neptonics.com. I used to get told there are only two certainties in life, death and taxes. But I found out that there are actually three. Score a free hat of your choice when you use the code NoobSpearo with every purchase of over $100 at noobspearo.com/taxman. Get some gear that's nearly guaranteed to drive away the wokesters, but gain admiration from the fishing fraternity. Go to noobspearo.com/taxman and use the code at NoobSpearo when you spend $100 or more to get yourself a free hat. Again, noobspearo.com/taxman. G'day, Noob Spearo community. I'm joined by Joe Pike. He's a famous UK Spearo YouTuber. He's been recommended by a bunch of people. One person, Machu Daikyu, I think he asked me a long time ago to get you on, Joe. You and I have chatted backwards and forwards for years. It's an absolute pleasure to finally get you on the show. You're a South Devon boy and an absolutely mad, frothing keen Spiro. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Shrek. It's very exciting to be on.
Mate, I was just going through your YouTube today. I didn't realize that you'd had some recently viral videos. And I really, really enjoyed one video in particular. I was hoping we could kind of walk through that a wee bit. It was the recent spearfishing giant halibut in the freezing Arctic video that you made. It seems to be performing pretty well.
Yeah, it's doing okay. Yeah.
Your channel's huge, mate. You got 44,000 subscribers, 144 videos. You've been doing it a long time. Well done.
Oh, thanks, Shrek. It's feels like it's a bit dormant at the moment. I mean, the weather here in the UK, you may have heard, has been atrocious. I think we've already had over half our annual rainfall, and it's just April.
Oh.
Since October, actually, it's just been windy and wet.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
So you've been travelling a bit?
No, to tell you the truth, just being in Devon. But there is some travelling coming this year.
Nice.
Some exciting things.
Nice. The UK is a tough jam, and that you guys do have some cool spearing. There's no doubt about it. I love the fact that you're doing like spearfishing and camping, just having a look at the UK coastline. You celebrate the area and the resources, the abundance that you have on your doorstep. But it is it has got a reputation. It has grown in popularity, and more people are doing spearfishing now and kind of realizing what the possibilities are. In large part probably due to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. It's so rare that the conditions are really, really good that almost makes it more special to me, because you do get days when it's kind of 15 meters fizz, possibly more in the summer, and yet it is so bad as well. One day you can have 0 meters, and the next 2 days later it can blow through and clear through to 10 meters, and I think that constant change here is what makes it quite special in a way, if you understand what I mean. If it was perfect every day, you kind of get used to it and take it for granted. But here, good this day, wow.
Yeah. Well, I say that to people too. Like, if you can start spearfishing wherever you are in the world, and if it's like a temperate area or colder, and you push through the difficult days, the days where it all comes together, like, you're the most frothing Spiro the planet has. Like, you appreciate it far more than everyone else, because you've put in 3 shit days to finally get a good one.
Yeah, 100%. I think your kind of seacraft or whatever it is over here in the UK, it needs to be kind of nailed down, because understand, obviously, something like the Mediterranean, you will get those windy days and those treacherous days at sea, 100%. But you're more kind of dialed into that calm weather, those warmer seas. But here, I mean, if you're not careful, you can get really caught out in the weather.
I feel like every part of the world, the Spiros that live there think that they're probably the best in the world. You know what I mean? Like I look at Australian Spiros and they're like, yeah, you mad guys dive deep, but we shoot huge fish, and I can do it in 2 meters, and there's a real art and a skill to that. And then you go to South Africa and they're like, we push past the great whites to shoot everything, and we're like, and then you go to America and they're like, oh, everything we do here is the best. We use big timber and we shoot big fish. And then you go to the UK though, and no one from the UK goes, oh yeah, I'm the best in the world. Like, that's what we do. It's is that a fair stereotype?
We don't have the absolutely, but I think for good reason. I mean, look, we don't have the big fish, but I've been fortunate to do more traveling recently, and something I have noticed is that everywhere in the world is different, and everywhere has its select species, and every single one of them behaves in a different way. And it's absolutely fascinating, which kind of means that wherever you are, you've got these puzzles to solve in the sea. I think it is a shame we don't have, I say we don't have big fish in the UK. We are surrounded by bluefin tuna, which we're not allowed to touch. We save them for the Japanese trawlers. But, maybe one day.
Is that the reason why there's so much animosity towards the commercial sector from the recreational fishers in the UK? Is that one of the major reasons?
Oh, look, I'm
Oh, I like to
I
ask a ship fight question. Come on, Joe. Give me the oil.
well, look, I don't have any problem with commercial fishing. It's just some of the techniques used that I think take it a bit far. And it's kind of the scale of things. I think even small scale trawling, fine, like it always was done. But with nets which are miles long and all the rest of it on huge factory ships, it starts to seem a bit ridiculous, really. And I think we're 100% seeing the knock-on effects now, lower abundance in the UK as a result. And if we shoot a ray or something, or sometimes we shoot a single fish, and in the public eye, because it's very personal, people can be very reactive to that. But what they don't realize is that on a trawler out to sea, they've just scooped up, a massive net worth of these fish, and they're going to do 40 runs of that today. They're going to do that over and over and over and over again. Whereas what we do is very selective. So yeah, it's that thing really. I wouldn't ever have a go at commercial fishing. I get it. It's got to happen, but I think some of the techniques could be refined. Personally,
one thing, since we're going controversial, like Brexit has changed some fishery stuff too, hasn't it? For the better for the UK, or what's the story there?
Oh, I'll have to be totally honest, Shrek. I'm not very good when it comes to politics. I don't follow it that closely. I find the news these days a bit, I don't know. It just depresses me a bit, and I feel like
enough.
a lot of the newspapers over here, they kind of lost a bit of the moral compass, and it's all very much sensationalized. But yeah, I absolutely, things have changed in terms of spearfishing. The main changes we've seen is more restrictions. Night diving's been banned now. We got restrictions with bass that they've always been there, to be fair, and I think they're quite good. 2 per diver per day.
That seems perfectly reasonable. This is perfect. From me, a person that doesn't live there or dive there.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly reasonable.
Because of inclement weather, though, and this is the argument Spearos make, and the UK faces more inclement weather than most places. Arguably, the resource is protected because of that inclement weather. So when you do get out, you might want to take more, because your argument is well, for 5 months of the year, we don't even get in the water. And then for the other 7 months, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 months of it is undivable. So really, okay, so for my 30 days I get in the ocean, I'm allowed 2 bass per day if I get onto the fish. And then it's so that means I'm going to shoot essentially maybe 4 bass a year if I'm good.
I can see what you're saying. And yeah, there definitely are days when you have to really exercise all of your discipline. Because there are those days, like any form of hunting, where the fish are just doing the right thing. And it can be really hard, but I still kind of fully support the two fish per day thing. I think once you get hopefully if we get the summer in the UK, we are pretty unrestricted. We've got such a big coastline. There's so many places you can jump in, and bass now do seem pretty abundant, so it should be all good.
So are you in the BSA?
I'm not actually. I probably should be, but I'm not.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. More like so many Spearos, I think, are politically diverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all good. But I feel like sometimes our governing bodies give us a seat at the table with regards to these discussions that happen. And I feel like, if nothing else, we should be in it just for that reason, even if we sometimes disagree with, some of the stuff that goes on with these groups is not great. I don't know much about the BSA other than there's a bunch of legends that are in there. But you do have such a big coastline, and I would want to hear spearfishing represented at those levels. The discussion that you had about huge scale industrial fishing is an important one. I'd love to see Spearos as part of the conversations around fisheries management. Someone in there that's got a few clues about them, that just gently, provides some perspective from our corner of the world, So I went all political with you, Joe. I'm sorry, bro. This is what I do some days.
It's a controversial start for me. Like I said, I'm
I
not
know.
that political, so that was quite fun.
Yeah. Well, you're like, in some ways, the stereotypical Englishman, incredibly polite, well-mannered, well-spoken, and very professional. And so I do like to stir the pot a wee bit and get you going, get you up and moving.
I totally appreciate that. Stir away.
Let's talk a bit about this trip. So the video is called Spearfishing Giant Atlantic Halibut in the Freezing Arctic. I just want to do a couple of accents here. Go on, pull. There's the classic British commentary on a tail-roped halibut. And then, oh, I didn't think it was going to be this big. It was completely static on the bottom, didn't move. And they were sort of two lines that stood out for me from the video. I absolutely love your mates, like Carl and Nick. Carl seems like a proper frother. Is that right?
100%, mate. When you're planning a trip like that to the Arctic Circle, you need characters that are really steady, and that are going to be able to work together as a team, because 100% it's a team thing.
Yeah.
You can't just go out on a shore dive there and expect to shoot an 80-kilo halibut and swim back to the shore. I mean, we were working in currents, to be honest, in these, I think you call them fjords, don't you?
Yep. We call them fjords as well.
Yeah, it's quite an intense form of spearfishing. The actual shooting of the fish, the technique there is not complicated. I mean, it's sitting on the bottom. As long as you can control your excitement levels, that's not difficult. But what you have to remember is we're contending with two or three knots of current, 4-degree water to 7-degree water, gale force winds that can pop out from nowhere, and a fish which you can't really handball it to the surface like a bass. So it's a massive. I loved the teamwork element, and Carl and Nick were excellent. They were great.
I love that, and I feel like you really told a pretty good story of the trip. Like, and you paced the action well. And I'm not going to give it all away because I actually think people should go and watch this video. It's like 20 minutes long, very, very well made. And a lot of your videos are the same, Joe. Like, there's this edge of like, you've got a very good sense for storytelling and pacing stuff and providing the appropriate narrative and music. And from a technical point of view, like in terms of a spearfishing film on YouTube, I actually feel like you do a really good job. So that's my 10 cents comment. It doesn't mean anything for me, but that's what I legitimately think.
Yes, it does.
One thing you mentioned, and I think I would like you to elaborate on, was that you mentioned that you'd done a failed trip to the Arctic before where you didn't actually get a halibut. This trip was a bit different. Can you just sort of elaborate on that a bit? What happened with this failed trip?
Yes, on the failed trip, we went to a spot that was extremely good for halibut on paper. They were catching the halibut when we were there, but it just really demonstrated the volatility of the Arctic Circle. I mean, there was loads of snow, which meant that the surface of the water was kind of really blurry, and that just took the viz right down. So you didn't have that window of visibility. It was a bit cold it was early April, so the water was honestly in places it was 0.
Wow.
On average, it was about 4 degrees. So that was tough. It was tough to keep. Didn't really keep warm, but just not to kind of die. That was a bit tough. And after a week of being in the water, we didn't see a single halibut.
Wow.
Very frustrating. And I was with two of the most stubborn people in the world. And I think you know them.
Yeah.
Mr. D Man and Andrew Gom. And those two don't give up. Those don't give up.
Nah, they're both top blokes, though. Like, you seem to get these good people around you because, like I said, Carl and Nick, although they're not like natural filmmakers or anything, like their personalities come through. And I got the sense that I would like to hang out with them. You know what I mean? Like, and I think if nothing else, that's a cool angle to show a video from. Like, people don't have to be naturals on camera. They just have to be themselves a little bit, And I thought that was pretty cool. So this time you went in November. Was it to avoid that sort of that weather and get a slightly different angle on it. Was that part of the iteration process?
So I have to admit, it was extremely last minute. It was mainly booked due to frustration of the UK weather.
So not as strategic as I thought.
Look, I was very fortunate to have some pros behind me helping me. D-Man, Andrew Gom, I could talk to them and they said, look, in November, you got really low plankton levels because there's less light. The sea's actually not too cold because obviously it's cooling down slowly. I think it's coldest sort of Feb, March. So you've still got water temp of about 7 degrees. So on paper, the people, Dan and Andy, and you may know Rick as well. He'd been with Dan and Andy before, Ricky Scott. They said, look, on paper, all the elements are there for it to be a good trip.
Mm.
It was still a gamble. In fact, I spoke to the kind of elder at the resort, and he said, "Oh, the first snow has fallen, so the halibut go away." And I was thinking, well, I hope you're not right.
Yeah. You should have said, "Look, mate, on paper, you might be right, but." I'm just joking.
There were a couple of anglers still there, and they couldn't believe what we were saying. They're like halibut in 5 meters.
Wow.
They're fishing in 50. They refused to believe what we were seeing in the water. It's crazy.
I really want you to do a Kiwi or an Aussie accent. I'm trying to squeeze one out of you by the end of this interview. So,
okay.
I'm trying to G you up for it so you get some revenge on me. One thing I noticed was, and you did this well, is you communicated how monotonous the diving is at times. But the teams-based approach, you communicated loud and clear. It seemed like you guys spent a fair bit of time in the wrong spot at the start and then very quickly iterated and went somewhere different. It seems possibly due to the low plankton or phytoplankton levels that you did have quite a bit of viz on this trip for the most part. You were able to see the fish from the surface, which is a huge advantage.
Yeah, 100%.
How much time swimming versus spearing was it? Like that first stretch seemed like you swam for quite a while and saw not much.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad you said that because in the world of YouTube, it's really hard to show all of the stuff that's not happening because obviously you don't really want to show the start of a video with 4 hours of GoPro footage seeing nothing but a couple of sand eels. But yeah, I would say on the first day we did 2 hours drift and then we'd swap someone onto the boat. So I'd say 2-hour drifts before we saw a fish.
Wow.
Which was the relatively small halibut I saw. But yeah, and it was kind of right at the end of the day when I saw that. And I'll be honest, it looked absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Because learning a completely new species is a new thing. I saw it from the surface, the diamond shape. And, in UK here, we have our plaice and flounder, which are, 3 or 4 pound fish is awesome. So this in comparison looked so much bigger. And also because the visibility was so good, it was very deceptive. You couldn't really tell if you're in 5 meters of water or 10, or you could even see to the bottom in 20. So it was really deceptive.
Yeah, nice. And you shot that fish, and I think you remember saying, so you said somewhere like 8 to 10 kilo, maybe that sort of 15 to 20 pound mark. And I really loved the breakdown you did with the species in terms of just sort of taking note of some of the characteristics of the fish, including the teeth and the camouflage and how they operate as a species. I actually really like seeing and hearing a bit more of that from someone with a little bit of an understanding. Doesn't have to be over technical. I just felt like it was a good explanation, and it shows a level of appreciation for them as an animal, and it's almost like a respect and an honor thing that I think sometimes goes missing. So that was cool.
Yeah, 100%. I think something I really want to, and I am going to start making videos again one day if we ever get a spring or summer, but just really want to try and, I don't know, put a bit more of an emphasis on that respect for the catch and also how you can be sustainable. Because, yeah, I'm not perfect by any means. I think we could all do a bit better there. We definitely take with and we give.
You're part of that rising tide. Like you're teaching stuff as you learn it. And I think that, this is the beauty of having this age where content is so readily available. If we're doing it with education in mind, even if we're just teaching people what we're learning as we're learning it, like it's a big thing, and learning about, the niche that the particular species serves in that ecosystem can be a really neat way to look at and start understanding the natural environment to a greater degree. I felt like you did a pretty good job of that.
Thank you, Stuart. Well, I do have a background because I was a biology teacher for about 6
There you
years.
go. There you
So
go.
I've got in the distant back drawers of my head, I've got some memories of that and all of the adaptations of the creatures, and where is it more clearly demonstrated than the fish? I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? Everyone has got its own little disguises and so on. It's just awesome.
A biology teacher. I never would have picked that. What do you do now?
So now I'm doing a bunch of things. I about 4 years ago, I took over a spearfishing store here with a good friend. Well, he actually took the shop over first of all, and I've got a bit of skin in the game now and help him because he doesn't really have the same amount of knowledge as me when it comes to all of the technical stuff.
What store is it?
So it's called the URL is spearfishingstore.co.uk.
Yeah.
We call our business Start Point Spearfishing, which is named after a local headland, quite a legendary headland where we started spearfishing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
interesting. I'll have to have a chat with you about getting some books in there. That'd be good.
100%. Yeah. I think we did touch on it before.
I didn't realize.
So we must.
I didn't realize you even had an interest in it. I had no idea. So.
Yeah. So it was. I mean, I think it's been going since like the 80s, this shop. I think it was the first one to hit the UK, and it's where I got kitted out over 10 years ago.
Wow.
And we kept it going.
Cool. That's very cool. And so what is that show open sort of like 7 days a week? Is it online and a mix of brick and mortar and online, or?
Yeah, exactly. It's online and in store. We're open Monday to Saturday, but in the summer we also open on a Sunday, 10 to 4.
Okay.
Monday to Saturday, 9 to 5, and cool. It's going okay.
Is that there in Devon?
Yeah, in Plymouth, in the southwest here.
Okay. What's the address of the shop?
It's in Plymouth, but there's a little town in Plymouth called Plimpton. It's PL7 4FE is our postcode. Start Point Spearfishing. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, interesting. I had no idea, so that's cool. To make the most of your spearfishing trip, charter, or competition, I am putting together a 50-day Spear Ready program so that I can be in the best condition to make the most of this WA comp. It's a big swim comp, shore-based, and big swims for the day. I am not carrying a hell of a lot of physical conditioning because just due to my life and lifestyle, pretty busy with 4 kids. So this program will be 100% focused on action. And I thought since I'm doing it, why not take a whole bunch of other people along for the ride? It's a 50-day program incorporating strength and conditioning, nutrition, dry and pull training, and everything else with a bunch of experts. I reached out to a whole bunch of legends I know, like Adam Stern, Jared Rosenberg, strength and conditioning coach. And we put together this program basically to get the most out of our bodies and make the most of these opportunities. Sometimes they're only once in a lifetime. You really want to arrive in the best possible condition that you can be. So Spear Ready, 50-day program to help you gear up. Go register noobsphero.com/Spear Ready.
I just love a functional and simple spear gun that I can trust when I pull the trigger. Killshot Spear Guns utilize the finest of kiln-dried Burmese teak. Killshot Spear Guns also combine American-made parts and fine craftsmanship to bring you accurate, reliable, and simple spear guns that you can trust. Fish after fish. Get $30 off any Killshot Spear Gun at killshotspearguns.com. Yes and amen, Noober. That's $30 off American-made performance spear guns at killshotspearguns.com. I'm really sorry for this terrible accent. Brought to you by Ed Martin at killshotspearguns.com.
So you're part-time doing that, and then keep me going on what other capers you're up to.
Yeah, so this year I'm also going to be presenting a show called Fishing the Wild. So I've been doing it for a couple of years with a chef. So the chef is Mike Robinson. He's an absolute legend and a lot of fun.
Okay.
And he does a gazillion different things, but one of the things he does is produce a TV show and sells it to the Outdoor Channel in the US.
Okay.
And that's on cable TV and on, I think, Tuesday nights when he releases it. And I'm working with him to do 10 episodes
Sick.
of Fishing the Wild this year, traveling around and filming and going to places and absorbing some of the culture and learning about fishing. And rumor has it Mr. D Man may be involved as well this year. So
perfect.
Yeah.
You're pretty friendly with Dan, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah. I recently just had him on the show again for a bit of a catch up, but he's a good man. It's cool you guys have connected since he's moved there. I'm stoked because you're both good storytellers with great YouTube channels, so it's awesome. This Fishing the Wild, what are the destinations on the cards and how soon does it release and where can people find it apart from the Outdoor Channel network?
Destinations wise this year, we're going to do a few in the UK, maybe 3 episodes in the UK. And then we're going to go to Greece, hopefully. Where else? Guernsey.
Where's Guernsey?
Guernsey is one of the Channel Islands across about 70 nautical miles south of here.
Okay.
Where else are we going? We are going somewhere else awesome, but I've forgotten. Somewhere it's so awesome I can't remember.
Yeah.
But the idea is when we get there, we absorb some of the local culture, the seafood. We do some fishing. The emphasis is on the spearfishing because the feedback we've got is that that's going really well for the Outdoor Channel to see a different perspective. We do some rod and line as well. But yeah, that's the thing.
Love it. That's cool.
Yeah.
There's a couple of shows, like even smaller ones. Like there's one I watched out of California called Positively Groundfish. Have you ever seen that on Instagram?
No, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, like I think they're filming in like 4K or something, so it's amazing, like really cool to look at. And then whoever's capturing the B-roll and stuff like that does a really good job of giving you context. And then what they're trying to do in a very short story is capture a local commercial fishing person's story. Because the Californian groundfish population have come back in many parts in quite a good way due to good management practices. And so these guys are just getting in there and capturing those positive stories, which, as you alluded to earlier, is something that we actually need to do, is reconnect people with real food and real fishing. Not 5 steps removed, like with some big factory farm that does it all for you so you don't have to be cognizant of taking an animal's life. And so I like hearing about shows like this, particularly ones that are on more public-facing networks, because it forces, because a lot of Spearos make videos that are for Spearos, as you know.
Yes.
It's hard to present spearfishing to a lay audience because after a while you feel disingenuous because, do you know what I mean? Like you of course you know. You've made a lot of videos.
Mm-hmm.
How do you walk that line outside of this Fishing the Wild? So outside of that, with your own YouTube channel and doing other stuff, how do you walk that line? And how do you stay aware or cognizant of the fact that maybe many people that aren't familiar with spearfishing are watching your videos?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I've tried to get out of that, that thing where you are making the videos that you want to see. So I'll be totally honest. I think most of the diehard spearfishing following would probably just want to see a camera on the end of a gun and, just see. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's what I quite like to see.
Yeah.
I often do find myself skipping through a bit to see the catch part. But I think for anyone else, they need to see the story. You need to tell the story and you need to show the context behind it. And yeah, that's made video making way more fun as well, because when you come back to the computer, like you relive the whole story and you can also, it gives you time to reflect on what you've done. So that's another reason I love making the videos.
With a 20-minute video, is that that's quite a complex narrative to weave. Even if you are just like going, hey, that was cool, drop that in the timeline, that was cool, sweet, how do I segue all those sections? Like, as you're aware, there's generally more to it than that. How much time do you, like for a 20-minute video, how much time ideally would you like to reflect on it? What's the creative timeline from doing the adventure to publishing the video?
Wow, it is a bit of an ordeal, to be honest. I mean, if I think back to the video we just did on halibut, I think we filmed that on 3 iPhones, 2 GoPros, and a drone. So absolute cluster of footage. I think to begin with, it was a case of taking all the footage off the devices, and then what I did was I label each one, give each one a number, and put them in chronological order, because it's just honestly a massive explosion of footage and drone stuff here, whatever camera stuff there. So step one for me is to put the footage in order. If it's quite a complicated project like the halibut video, I will then actually name each file. I mean, it sounds a bit ridiculous maybe, but halibut getting speared, searching for halibut. So it's got a number and a name. So it's chronological. But I take my time with that. I might spend a week just pottering every now and then at the computer, because I can't sit down for more than an hour, really. I just need to go and do something else. And then after about a week, I've got all the files in order. I know what they are. And then I drag them into the timeline and then start putting them into a basic story. So this is what happened chronologically. Then I start chopping things down and trying to, keep retention by removing those, long awkward silences I make on the camera because I've forgotten what I'm talking about.
Cool. And
That kind of thing.
do you go for feedback at some point? Like, do you have a draft and then I'm sure I know when you start something, you're over analytical and overcritical of yourself, and that doesn't really go away. But your just level of giving a fuck, if you like, just goes down, and you just you give yourself permission to just get something out there, even if it's not, because there's a point where the law of diminishing returns. You know what I'm saying. For 20% of the effort, 100%. You can get 80% of the result. To get it to a standard of perfection, it becomes quite agonizing and discouraging. Is that something you battle with?
I'll give you the answer here. I mean, honestly, I think probably most of the people subscribed to my channel would rather I just did more frequent videos and just bunged all the footage and just released it. I honestly get that feeling, because people can skip through anyway and see what happened. But I think, I don't know, for me it's the creative process is part of it. So it's finding that balance between not spending weeks and weeks trying to achieve perfection, but actually getting enough content out there. And I've not relentless messages from YouTube saying, "Where have you gone, Joe? You haven't released a video in 130 days, 140 days." And I'm thinking, well, yeah. But then, I don't want to just release anything. But maybe that's a conversation I need to have with myself and think, well, maybe I just need to chill out a bit and just
I don't know if it is
a bit more.
I remember listening to this rap song by NF. I don't know if you're familiar with the guy, American rapper. I think it's called "Paid My Dues," but he's basically raging against the machine in terms of, because these content platforms are kind of relentless. They're it's almost like the FOMO. They try and game you to produce more shit, and it's we actually need less shit and more art, more good stuff. Which sometimes I make a podcast with my own conversations, and it's relatively relaxed and easy and unedited. But I don't want to just, do you know what I mean? Just plaster smear the same shit week after week. There is an artistic expression. I think if you're not enjoying it, you stop doing it. Your longevity is kind of proof of this, I think, that you're an artist.
Wow, mate, I do appreciate that. But no, I agree with you as well. You're doing a podcast, and your podcast, it has an incredible reputation. The amount I've learned from this podcast over the years, it's an absolute goldmine. And you haven't got that just by putting content out for the sake of a schedule, have you? The amount of planning and all of that that's gone into it, and to get characters onto the show who can add value and all of that. So I guess it was the same for me.
There's a discipline to any creative pursuit, like to get stuff done, there has to be. But you want to stay like you enjoy it. So yeah, I liked the video, man. I really liked it. I don't want to give away everything. There was some cool recipes in there. There was a real good balance of just spearfishing because it looked fishy as that trip. I tell you, I was like, I would really have loved to have been on that trip. And like, you obviously shot some special fish, and there were some really, really cool moments in it that you didn't give spoilers away for. And that's, I think a good video needs, there's so much about like, I've got to put a hook in the headline and tell everyone what's going to happen in the first 2 seconds of the video. And it's limited because you've showed them in 2 seconds the whole video. And I didn't feel like your video did that. So it was cool.
Awesome. Yeah. That's great feedback. Thank you, Shrek.
I genuinely mean it. I'm giving you a big shine on here, but I watched the video start to finish and I really enjoyed it. And I just thought it was pretty cool. And like I said, you're 144 vids deep. You're not new at this. So, yeah.
When I look back at those early videos, I want to delete them with every fiber of my being.
Me too, with my podcast. Yeah.
But it's like, I can't. It shows the story. It shows how shit it was.
Everyone that's listening to the podcast, I want you to go to Joe PK on YouTube, and I want you to scroll back to the start and leave him a comment on one of his very first videos and just tell him what a legend he is. Because I listened to like episode 1 or 2 of the Noob Spirit podcast, and I've had to do it recently, and I was just cringing like, oh, it's so horrible.
Yeah.
But,
man, yeah, same here.
Yeah, but I tell you what, you leave a trail of yourself behind, and there's growth in it, and you can kind of see that, and other people can too, and they come along for that ride with you. And your channel's probably got a bit of a cult following, which allows it to consistently perform pretty well. And then you've got these videos every now and then that seem to have gone viral. Like I was looking at one, I was like, what? It's like 2.6 million views. Another one's like 2.1 million. I was like, holy shit, I didn't realize like some of your videos had done that well. Not all of them are like that, but hats off to you.
I mean, but that is just down to the YouTube gods, I call it. There's not really any rhyme or reason. I have no explanation for why. But just some videos do really well. I did a foraging adventure video. Dan always rinses me because I call them epic foraging adventures. Yeah, this one just randomly got, a couple of 100,000 views in the first week. And then I thought, hell, I'll do it again. I'll give it the same title. And it's just like dead. Nothing.
Oh, I can see that. I'm actually looking at those 2 videos. One of them's like 10 months ago with a big lobster, I think was maybe the difference. And you got 626,000 views. And then a recent one, it's a year ago. It's epic spearfishing and exploring UK coastline. It's like 26K views. I hear what you're saying. I talked to a few YouTubers, and all of you guys deal with this frustration. It's the algorithmic YouTube friggin' mess that's very hard to decipher.
Yeah. But you know what they say? You can switch that word algorithm with audience, apparently. And if that's true, maybe it just does come back to that thing we were saying earlier. What's accessible to people? I suppose foraging a bit of a medley of things that people recognize, rather than hooning around the coastline and diving into wrecks and weird places no one wants to be. Maybe that's less accessible. The
UK spearfishing culture is riddled with foraging, which is something that you can do year round, unlike a lot of the fishery. Talk to why you're passionate about foraging. There's a really good UK spearfishing book that I've read too. I think it's UK Spearfishing and Foraging. I can't remember the title of it. It's really, really well made. Have you read that book?
It might be Underwater Foraging. Is it Underwater Foraging by Ian Donald?
That's it. Yeah, that's a fantastic book. It's a beautiful book.
So good.
Really well put together. Yeah. But he, like, as soon as I read that book, I realized, like, culturally, like, and contextually, that is what you guys do in the UK if you're Spearos. You're foragers as well. And it's almost sometimes you're first and foremost foragers and Spearos second. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to that thing of, that appreciation for wild food and how much we love it. And there's so much of the time we can't go spearfishing here because of the weather or whatever. So actually being able to get out onto the beaches and see what bounty is there to be had, it's really fun. I've actually got, if I get round to it, I'm going to upload a video for this weekend. Actually, first video in a long time where I took my daughter Chloe out and we did some foraging for clams, and she just loved it. It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah. Those intertidal zones, like for kids, like I think that's how you instill a wonder for the natural world. I was actually chatting about it earlier today, and very cool. And for you, was that like really rewarding? Taking her to
100%. I think it's starting to get her to appreciate wild food, and actually I want her to know where food comes from. I think it's really important if I can show her that, and she's really on board with it and just loves it and so excited to eat the things she's caught, which is also great. I mean, we did a bit of cockling the other week, and I've never, what kids are like, it's hard to get them to eat anything. But she was, she wanted like fourths of this cockle. I mean, I ballsed it up anyway. It was some kind of cockles in white wine and garlic, and it tasted like vinegar, mate. And she was like, more.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Just so cool to see. Yeah.
Yeah, you like to see kids involved in the process, and they do appreciate it more. I think I've said it twice today, I think, but gratitude is the antidote for entitlement. And so many of our kids these days are growing up entitled, and I think like when you get them out into the natural world, they see what's involved in the process of food, and then it gives them a deep sense of appreciation. It's almost like a shortcut to making your kids less of a bunch of wankers, if you like, to put it crudely.
100%. You can't help but respect that process when she comes out and learns the amount of effort that goes into harvesting wild food, as it were. It's that appreciation. Definitely agree.
Cool. So for you with the YouTube channel, you've done a lot. What's your underlying motivation? Like there's I think it's probably changed over the years, I'd imagine. Like I see a whole bunch of good things that your channel's done, but I'd love to hear from the horse's mouth, as it were, like what your underlying, because we're not making millions from this stuff. It's generally a passion project.
Hell no. Yeah, it's entirely. I mean, forget the financial reward of YouTube. It's relentlessly unpredictable. One video might make you 100 quid, the next one will make you £1. It's not even covering the fuel of the car to drive down. But I mean, to answer the question, it's really interesting because there's just loads of angles to it. Because ever since I did my first video, I just loved what we mentioned earlier. First of all, the creative process. Actually, I'm quite a creative person. I've always loved that kind of thing. So making a video, and you feel a bit proud of it afterwards. But there's also that kind of deeper kind of wanting, or it's almost a natural thing, I think, being a hunter, the species we are, I think we've got to where we've got to by cooperativity and working together, and we've always hunted in packs, and I think there's just that natural, good feeling you get from sharing the hunt, showing others and saying, this is what I've done, and this is awesome, and you should try it as well. And I think helping each other, just as a species, that's what we've always done, isn't it? And I think, therefore, I would argue we kind of naturally get a bit of a kick out of doing that.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's maybe that sounds weird. I don't know.
No, not at all. And as usual, like anything that's been sustained long term, I always understand that motivation is often multifaceted. It's not a simplistic answer. So a massive creative outlet for you, and then a sense of joy in educating and sharing what you do with others and helping them along the way. I can see that perfectly. And if you make $1 for a video, a quid for a video, then all the more for it. Put some fuel in the outboard. I get it. It is nice when you have a pursuit though, and yours has been quite successful. You know, I understand monetarily, maybe not so, but it is nice when it does give back into your passion. It allows you to continue to keep doing what you do. So very cool.
Yeah. No, I must admit, those occasional viral videos are a nice little bonus, but I couldn't for a minute say, oh, I'm going to do YouTube as a career tomorrow, because, it's, it wouldn't go well. I don't think, judging on experience, certain videos, the algorithm spits out and says, no, this isn't this isn't happening. And you get
computer says
minimal
no.
views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. You haven't. I'm not going to put you in too much more controversy, but I will say, like, some YouTubers walk a delicate line with what they'll do in order to get a certain amount of virality, and I don't feel that you do that. You know, you make the effort of writing a good headline and producing a good video, and then you let the content stand on, its merits alone and luck. Would that be a fair statement?
No, yes, I will admit I have done some ridiculous thumbnails in the past, but more out of curiosity, because I mean there's kind of like two reasons for this. I think the one thing is, in the UK, everything we catch is quite small. I mean, we don't have any big fish, so if you're holding the fish up, when it comes to a thumbnail, well, you can't really see it. So in the past, I've got to be honest. I've increased the size of things, and my justification of that is to actually, so people can actually see it and to highlight what's being caught. It's not trying to be deceptive. I hope that people can come on to the video and see, actually, this guy isn't pure clickbait. This has actually happened, and that's a good sized place.
One of the first things I teach students when they do a spearing course with me is how to hold a fish for a photo. Hiding the fingers, hiding the hands, getting the angle of the fish right, making sure that the entry wound, you got a big, nice, tidy entry wound instead of a gaping exit wound, pulling the guts out if needed or tucking it back in, watering the fish down, trying to make sure that people's head and feet are in a standalone photo. Like, these are basics of taking photos, and I don't feel guilty about teaching people how to do that. It is a slight game though, because it's very easy to hold the fish out, make it look bigger or whatever. But I also want people to enjoy what they've caught, and I think if they've got a photo that sort of gives them that bookmark in that part of their spearfishing journey, I reckon that's a cool thing.
Yeah, but admittedly, I didn't need to Photoshop the halibut picture.
No.
You can see what that was.
Yeah.
But no, look, I've only done it on a couple of videos as a bit of an experiment, because you see YouTube littered with it. I mean, thumbnails it's such a fickle thing, isn't it? That's all people can see to make a decision whether or not to click on your video. So you've got to sell it a bit. And if you're holding up a black bream, which is, not
2
much
pounds.
bigger than your hand, but a real achievement, you need to somehow show that in the thumbnail. So I don't know, creative ways of doing that. Thumbnails are really difficult, but, for sure.
Yeah, you should. I haven't seen a Jaws-like thumbnail with a black brim. That's a good one, I reckon. The black brim's
Definitely.
coming
Well,
out.
the shark. Yeah.
Kill fish with precision and power, sending shafts from a stable platform with Killshot spear guns. Made in the Florida Keys by Ed Martin, you're buying American-made, dependable spear guns. Get $30 off any Killshot spear gun at killshotspearguns.com. Yes and amen, Nuba. That's $30 off American-made performance spear guns at killshotspearguns.com. It says if they're in the shop or on the phone, they can cash in by saying, "Crikey, mate," or the Noob Spearo podcast sent me. Check them out at killshotspearguns.com, based in the Florida Keys. Hey guys, not sure how you stay hydrated out on the boats on those long days out on the water, but staying hydrated is absolutely critical towards good equalization and looking after your body, making sure you're not doing those awkward one-legged kicks to the surface when one leg cramps out on you. Go to aqualite.com.au,
and get yourself a box of sachets. You just simply add them to water. It's less than $1.28 per serve. It's cheaper and healthier than any other sports drinks on the market. Aqualite will make a difference in your spearfishing. Check it out at aqualite.com.au. Use the code NoobSpearo to save 10% on any order. Check it out. Aqualite, made in Western Australia. To make the most of your spearfishing trip, charter or competition, I am putting together a 50-day Spear Ready program so that I can be in the best condition to make the most of this WA comp. It's a big swim comp, shore-based, and big swims for the day. I am not carrying a hell of a lot of physical conditioning because just due to my life and lifestyle, pretty busy with 4 kids. So this program will be 100% focused on action. And I thought since I'm doing it, why not take a whole bunch of other people along for the ride? It's a 50-day program incorporating strength and conditioning, nutrition, dry and pull training, and everything else with a bunch of experts. I reached out to a whole bunch of legends I know, like Adam Stern, Jared Rosenberg, strength and conditioning coach, and we put together this program basically to get the most out of our bodies and make the most of these opportunities. Sometimes they're only once in a lifetime. You really want to arrive in the best possible condition that you can be. So Spear Ready, 50-day program to help you gear up. Go register, noobspearo.com/Spear Ready. Awesome. Let's get right back into your spearing roots, Joe. What's a fish that you still geek out on hunting, and why? And how are you sort of still in that journey of mastery? What does it look like?
It's always on the tip of my tongue. It's got to be gilthead sea bream. They're just so awesome. They the thing about them is very, very difficult to work out their routine. So most species are kind of very, very. After a few years, you can work them out. They have certain patterns. They're creatures of habit. But the interesting thing about the gilthead sea bream is I think they're still kind of finding their feet here, possibly. I don't know, that might be wrong, but they just very difficult to work out. Yeah.
Have they?
You've got a book, right?
Have they become more populous in the UK due to changing baseline temps in the ocean, or is that what you're sort of suggesting or alluding to, or is that your suspicion?
I've heard various things from a local fisherman. Some say they've been around for quite a long time, like over 50 years. And some say they're increasing, some say they're declining a bit. It's hard to know, but one thing's for clear: I don't think they've always been here. They are migrating in, but yeah, they're really confusing because there may be some parts of the UK where they're reliable, but you have a book, don't you, where you can write down all the conditions?
Yeah, the Spearo log. Yeah,
experience, right? What's it called again?
It's Spearo log. It's up on Amazon. It's like you just log your dives, and then after a while you have a body of data, and then you can say, sweet, well, I know that in August, like I've shot gilthead like 2-3 years running in this month here, and then it gives you a body of data to do it. I have had a recent suggestion and possibly a better idea than the original concept of that book, and that is to have a fish log, which is instead of a dive log, you're actually logging species.
Mm-hmm.
So you could even have like a book that's like species 1, and you write the label, and then it's got 4 or 5 entries for that one species.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that way the data is more accessible because you're like, as someone says to you, or you say to yourself, I really want to target gilthead sea bream. Sweet. Where were the last 5 that I shot, and what time of year was it, in what depth, at what moon phase, what was the chlorophyll level in the ocean, all of that. You can map any data point you want, and it does give you some more specificity. Fishing's always fishing though. But the Spearo log, yeah, like after you create something, then you realize, oh, was there maybe a better way to do this? I still think it's good and relevant. It's up on Amazon, but I think I would create a Spearo fish log next, if you like, and it would be more around, logging things in a species by species basis. But people could do that on their own computer with a simple Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, they can. But I think it was Dan that gave me Spearo log, and I've used it. It's absolutely brilliant because it's what I would do anyway. But it's nice to have everything in one little place. And so I did that for the giltheads, and it's just failed. They just don't seem. The deal is that they breed in winter, so they spend a lot of their time in coastal shallows and estuaries during the summer, and then they actually move out of the estuaries and these areas in winter and breed and form these massive schools. And I've wound up in these breeding areas a couple of times, which is an amazing sight to see, but they don't seem to kind of every year it seems to be different, or at least I can't quite nail down the conditions where to meet them. But when you're in a school of 200 of them, it's a really amazing sight, and they can do this crazy thing where you kind of look at them top down, you can't really see them. Interesting, they can kind of turn their bodies and become invisible, and then when you get down on their level, all of a sudden they're there, and they taste absolutely amazing. When you're hunting them in coastal areas, they love sandy beaches, but unlike bass, which will, come into a distraction, the giltheads tend to just be going somewhere, keeping a straight course. They don't really hang around to come and see you, and they will move away, if you see what I mean. So can be more challenging in that respect.
They sound a little bit like, and this could be really ignorant, and you probably don't have experience with the species, but a mangrove jack, which is a Lichana species. What is gilthead? What is their the Latin name for them? Do you know? You're going to pull it up.
Sparus orata.
Okay, cool. So it's orata is a snapper family, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Yeah, but I also will mention they can be super easy to catch as well. This is the other annoying thing, is you can bump into them on a stringweed bed and they can be asleep. It's that kind of fish, but then you can go out and target them and they can be really, really real dicks.
Yeah. So, assuming you're not getting lucky, right? Let's just say, and it's not a big spawning aggregation. Let's just say you notice one of these lays where they are and they're going about their business. What is your go-to hunting technique? Are you approaching on the bottom? It sounds like you need to be on the bottom in order to see them. And then, so let's just say you have located some in a particular area. Where to from there? Do you have to, if you see them on that dive, is that your only opportunity to hunt them, or can you have another drop on them before they've moved off?
I think it really depends on the time of year, but even then I'm hazy. I mean, last year about 4 times, and every time I saw them, they were just swimming past and just out of range and just going from A to B, and it's very, very frustrating. So yeah, it always has been either the Espeto waiting on the bottom in deeper water, or it's been just snorkeling in a very stealthy way in the shallows, where they feed at high tide on mussels, or at least they feed on stuff in the mussels. I've never found mussels inside them.
I would be inclined to try some noise then. Have you tried noise?
No, I haven't.
If they're a bottom feeder, like if they're breaking up crustaceans or mussels, sounds like they might respond to sound, maybe. I don't know.
I know people that will break the mussels up to bring them in as a kind of burley. But that, I don't know why, that's just not really my thing. I like to catch them going about their natural business, really. But it's weird, isn't it? But I don't know.
Everyone has their own Spiro ethics. Everyone has their own. I've heard some guys say that.
It's even ethical. I think it's just, I find it more rewarding to figure out what the busters are doing. And then try and build that picture we were describing earlier of, every fish has its own behavior and all that stuff. That's what really interests me is fish behavior and working them all out, cracking the code.
Yeah, I think that journey of mastery and understanding is a rewarding one, all of its own. It's not always about just bringing fish home, is it?
No. I mean, I was really lucky last year to go to Madagascar, and it was horrific weather. Every day was relentlessly bad, and trying to get these dogtooth tuna, and I was just I kept seeing them, and I couldn't spear them. I was like, what do you have to do to catch these fish? And then the guy kind of leant in, he's like, well, what they do is they usually come in and check you out from a distance and swim off. And I was like, yeah, that keeps happening. And then I come to the surface because I'm used to a fish once it's seen me buggering off. And he said, no, well, once they've checked you out, just wait there. Because 9 times out of 10, they'll then come back in. I was like, oh, okay. So I did that. And this was literally the next dive after he gave me this advice. I dived down to below the flashes, just kind of hung at about 15 meters. The dogtooth comes in, looks at me, drifts away. And I just waited maybe another 20 seconds, and he just barreled straight back towards me and shot it in the face.
Oh, beautiful.
It's every fish has its own behavior, doesn't it? And I don't know why that fish does that, and maybe in that particular location, but that's what it does. And that's about spearfishing. That's the thing that just gives me endless entertainment is figuring that. And he kind of gave me the shortcut and kind of spoiled that and told me, but never mind. I'm happy.
You like figuring stuff out for yourself.
Yeah, sometimes a leg up is okay, especially if you're only there for a few days and you really want to taste the sashimi.
I'm on your Instagram. I'm looking at an incredibly handsome photo of Joe Pike. Joe PK, I think it is on Instagram, isn't it? Captain _ Joe PK. You went with that angle. Nice.
You sure that's me?
Yeah, it's an Azores photo with a massive AJ.
Yes.
A reef donkey, they call it there. That fish is a donkey, man.
Yeah, that was a fun day. It was a tough day, but a fun day. And that was like the 11th hour. We were almost having to pack up and go. Because it was a challenge, definitely.
Walk me through it.
My first experience kind of diving blue water and not having a clue what I was doing. So it's kind of, massively rewarding. And that fish tasted, I've read everywhere online that people saying they don't taste good, but I mean, that to this day, it's one of the best fish I've ever eaten. So it was welcome surprise. It was amazing.
How did you have it?
We had it just grilled on, in the Azores, they just all have their barbecues in the garden, like a simple grill with a load of coals underneath and
asado, is it?
Olive oil and salt.
Is it called asado? What are they called? Yeah.
Yeah, they have all that. But yeah, it's olive oil, salt on the grill. Amazing. Those wings of that amberjack were 11 out of 10.
Yeah, right. I'm looking at another photo now, and you've got Guy Bruges. Is that how you say his name?
I think Guy.
I remember looking at this bloke years and years ago and thinking he's got a rad life. I hadn't kept up with him, so it was funny actually seeing him with you with a bunch of fish. So what was he like? And because he's a native Azorean, isn't he? Is that what you call the people from Azores?
I think that's correct.
Okay,
I guess
I made it up. I just went.
No, Guy was massive. I mean, he is a lot of fun. He's a big personality. He is just booming with enthusiasm and confidence and fun. And he is one of those guys that he is so passionate about spearfishing. He loves it so much. And that just, as soon as you take his big paw, you just know you're in the right hands. And he loved it. I mean, he had quite a small boat at the time. And we were doing a Fishing the Wild episode. And so there were 4 of us on this. It can't be much. It's got to be 4 meters max going out in some pretty big seas. I mean,
yeah.
I was like, this could be interesting. But he was like, no, it's all good, guys. Hold on tight. We head to this pinnacle, like 3 miles out, and this Tupperware is literally like, I don't know how it's not sinking. But yeah, he's a really good Spearo. Like, he uses this variable weight system where he kind of tucks a, I think 4 kilo curved hip weight under his belt, and then has like a couple of kilos on the belt. He just rides this down to the abyss, and then just starts hunting. And it's so awesome, guy.
Hey, can you make an introduction for me again? I'm going to get him on the show.
Guy Bruges, get him on the show. Yeah, absolutely.
But if you make a personal intro for me, I reckon I'll have a better success rate. It's the Joe.
Oh, mate,
it's the Captain Joe PK touch.
It's Joe PK. Like he's a living legend. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd be over the moon, and he'd be a lot more fun than me. I'd be a legend.
No. You're a legend too, Joe. Mate, your Instagram's got heaps of cool stuff on it. Good little variety there. Razor clams. Is that a big razor clam or it's a big oyster? Walk me through some more species that you like to forage. I understand you guys have a scallop fishery, but it's kind of like real sensitive topic amongst spearos in the UK.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Like I understand dredging's still going on, which is probably some of the reason behind the wariness with it. But can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah. So with scallops, it's a really difficult one because they are very, very fussy about where they will exist. They need a sheltered bay. They need a decent amount of current so that they can filter the plankton from the seawater. They're not into big swells. So that really narrows down, in a way, not many places they can exist. So the issue you have is, they're also incredibly delicious. So everyone wants to know where they are. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? I genuinely believe if all the Spearos tomorrow, you told them where scallops were, I still don't really think you put a dent on them because they exist quite deep. I mean, where I'm based, we tap into them at sort of 15 meters, but they go deep because I've dived down to sort of 25 and they're thick, and I know the scuba divers are getting them at 50 meters, so you'll have that natural replenishment, but yeah, you definitely do have a bit of elbows out when it comes to scallop marks and I get it because there aren't that many of them.
Is the term reseeded, where they're deliberately, reseeded by a fisheries department there? Like where they're actively bred in captivity or seeded? I'm unsure of the terminology on this stuff. I'm fairly ignorant with this stuff. But then put out into the wild?
Yeah, that is a thing. I don't know if much of it has gone on here in the southwest of England. I think, I mean, look, I may be wrong, but I feel like their populations are fairly healthy in the spaces they are, and they've been fished. And I know a few of the local commercial scallopers. These areas are protected by dredging now, so it's only hand diving. So they seem to be flourishing, and they're very, very fast growing. And the minimum size is 10 centimeters, which is again pretty sensible. Yeah, I don't think they've been reseeded. I could be wrong. In the same way as maybe oysters are.
And what's your bag limit there? So your 10 centimeters, is that from side to side or top to bottom?
Side to side, yeah. 10 centimeters. Bag limit's 25 per day.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a fee.
You have to have a license.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just for them.
Yes. So shellfish license where here in Devon covers lobsters and crabs as well, and a few other bits and bobs. But it's a good thing, and it's done by the local IFCA, the Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authority. They send you the information on the species you can take, seasons, minimum landing sizes, all that.
I'm quite a fan of some licensing in terms of this, as long as the money is utilized really well and invested back into that fishery. Because as long as it's not another money grab by government and it's going back into like we were talking about reseeding, types of research, educational material for recreational fishers, I actually think that's really worthwhile, and I have no problems paying it. And it's a fair gateway as long as it's reasonable for that, I think. What do you think, though?
Yeah, no. To be honest, I think our local inshore fisheries authority, I think they're a pretty golden bunch, and I think they do really amazing work. Looking after, protecting a lot of species, especially from illegal fishing. There's a lot of illegal fishing that goes on around here. Things like gill netting in the wrong places, and I think they're really hot on that. Protecting species in the environment. So yeah, I'm all for it, like you are. I think it also, the education that comes with it, you get information on how to do it right, because otherwise, yeah, you could easily have people abusing it, and yeah, that'd be a real shame.
In terms of foraging tools over there, do you have a gauge for, like a multi-purpose gauge for the different things that require measurement from a fisheries perspective? Like, so you mentioned 10 centimeters with the scallops. Are there other things? I'm guessing your lobster have a size limit?
Yes, lobster have, what's that, 11 centimeters? Wait, don't quote me on that.
Well, one thing
carapace.
I like to caveat every episode with is like fisheries laws, size, and bag limits are subject to change. So never ever rely on a podcast to get all your information. Yeah. But is that measured carapace to the carapace, or how is that measure taken?
It's measured from the inside of the eye socket to the end of the carapace. So you don't measure the tail, but there are some regulations with the tail. It's quite interesting. If the tail's at all damaged, you're not allowed to land the lobster. And the reason for that is it could have been V-notched, which means a fisherman V-notch certain lobsters, which are really healthy breeders. So if you see some damage to the tail, it could be because it's been V-notched and then, chipped away a bit. So, and also we're not allowed to land buried females, which is obviously extremely sensible. So yeah, it's really good.
Do you get a tar spot as well, like the black tar spot?
No, I don't know. What's that?
We get them under the lobsters here. I've forgotten a bit of the science behind it, so I don't want to speak out of ignorance, but it's essentially a dark discoloration under their tail, and it indicates something around that. I can't remember if it's the males or females, though, so excuse my complete ignorance with spouting out stuff that I know nothing about. But I'm guilty of that. So.
No worries. No, but it's people. That's the goal of these things. People can go and research that and find out, and But no, I don't think we do have that. But we have 2 per day and all of those regulations I mentioned, and as a result, I think pretty sure our lobster fishery is pretty healthy. I mean, as Spearos, we see a lot of them, and at this time they start coming out of their kind of hibernating caves and marching around, and you can catch a lot this time of year just out walking.
Yeah, right.
I think it's safe.
So a tar spot on a lobster. When rock lobsters mate in late winter and spring, the male attaches a packet of sperm, which resembles a blob of tar, to the underside of the female. The scientific name for this sperm packet is a spermatophoric mass, but owing to its appearance, it's generally called a tar spot. So there you go.
Yeah, cool. I know how to sex a lobster now. I know how to tell the difference between male and female, which is cool. With their mating apparati.
Go, tell us about
it. But it's interesting because until you catch a male and a female alongside, you kind of never really know. And last summer I caught both, and you can notice the female has a much wider tail. It's probably the same as you, but she carries her eggs on the tail. So it's same size lobster, same size carapace, male and female. The female has a much wider tail. And also the swimmerets thing.
In New Zealand, the rock lobster have different size limits, I think, as far as I'm aware, for males and females. So it's actually critical that you learn how to do it. Unless you just go, I'm not going to take anything under the, the minimum size limit for either. That'll be the crude way around it. But yeah, I always understand, like most of our size limits have been set. And this is from the podcast that I've learned this, is that, they're set based on that animal being able to have at least one full reproductive cycle. And then that's what sets our minimum size limits. I always like to leave stuff generally larger than the minimum size limits. With lobster in particular, and with fish, the yield that you get off a 50 centimeter animal versus a 55 centimeter is quite dramatic.
Yeah.
Like you get way more out of an animal that's just like only 10 centimeters bigger, or 10, 20% longer. But your increase in terms of like how much like off of a fillet you're getting off it, or the yield out of a lobster is dramatically different.
100%. I think that's what's so unique about spearfishing is, you can be so selective and have such a minimum impact if you do it right, which is great.
Yeah. Legends, get your froth on with some Noob Spearo gear. The Jobfish Tribute, Spearo Dad, Rancid Pelican, from flip-flops, Crocs and socks through to hats, shirts and stickers. Get your froth on with Noob Spearo at noobspearo.com. Freediving for spearfishers at howtofreedive.com will help you to extend your breath hold, understand your body better, and put you in a better position when you actually get to go out spearfishing. This program is not for noobs, as this program is for people who have some diving under their belts and understand some basic spearfishing safety, but it's perfect for spearos who want a guided, easy to follow and complete program with videos, a clear process, and a set goal. The 5-minute freediver works. Get started for free and see if it's for you at howtofreedive.com. There's a tester there. Use the code NOOBSPEARO, NOOBSPEARO, to save some money if you do decide to purchase. Check it out at howtofreedive.com. Freediving for spearfishers, a fantastic way to prepare, especially if you've got a big trip coming up. Get to that 5-minute mark, and it does translate to your diving at howtofreedive.com.
If your buddy had a blackout on your next spearfishing trip, think, what would the outcome of that be? Do you know how to revive someone from a blackout? Would you even be in a position to do something about it? Or would you be diving, chasing after a fish as your buddy sinks down to the bottom of the ocean? Do you know where most blackouts happen? Do you know what you can do to minimize your risk of having a blackout? My name is Ted Hardy, and I'm the founder of freedivingsafety.com. In my free online course, you will learn the truth about shallow water blackout, the myth of I don't push myself, I know my limits, I'm in tune with my body, how to minimize your risk of having a blackout, and most importantly, how to save your buddy's life if they have one. Visit freedivingsafety.com to sign up for your free course today. Dive safe out there. It's just not even that hard.
All right, cool. Joe, I'm having a good chat here. I want to hear about your toughest situation, though. Something maybe where you've scared the crap out of yourself, and I'd love to hear the story, and then what were your takeaways from it? What did you learn?
Well, I mean, there's a few of those. The one that really springs to mind would probably be the time, as a bit of a novice. I think I'd probably only been diving a year, and I had that itch you get to dive where it was just so powerful. I think I'd been in university lectures all week in a stuffy classroom. I was like, I really need to go. And I'd driven, when I was at uni, I had to drive quite a long way to the coast. Might not seem a long way for you, but it's about an hour and a half. And I got there and I just completely underestimated the conditions. It was like the sea it had that kind of foam line all around the edge because the swell was so big. It was massive. And it was very treacherous. And I was standing up on the cliff and just thinking, what do I do? And of course, I made the decision to jump in. And it was one of these big sandy bays. And to the left of the sandy bay, there's a kind of rock about, 500 yards out. So you've got a bit of a pinch point as the tide and swell comes in and comes onto the beach and then runs out. And getting out through the waves was a bit of an ordeal. And I made it out, and it was, to my amazement, visibility was maybe about 3 meters. It wasn't too bad. And like first dive, I nailed a really big bass. It was awesome. I was so stoked, and I was dealing with it and lurched around by these swells, because you know what it's like when you're spearfishing. Once you get out through the waves, however rough it is, you kind of just, that's all right now. I'm out there. And I dealt with this bass and got it on my belt. And then I looked up. I realized I must have drifted about 300 yards, and I just hadn't appreciated the strength of the current. And not only was there a kind of tidal current, I think there was a like this, when the swell comes up on the beach and runs out.
Longshore.
It was a double whammy. Yeah, it was like an undertow from the
rip current on top of a tidal current.
There was a rip current, and the tidal stream was being pinched between this rock and the shore. So I must have been moving. It was like a river. Must have been moving at sort of 4 knots away from the beach. And the problem is, between the beach, from this beach to the next place you can get out it's probably about, 5 or 6 miles, because it's just cliffs. and the swells were hammering into the cliffs. I'd probably I think when I got home, I looked at the surf report, and it was a 12-footer. So it was enough to be just like, and that was when I thought, oh shit, don't really know what to do, because so the first thing I tried to do was swim in, because you don't swim against the current, you swim in. But the problem was, with swimming in, I was just getting to the cliffs, and the waves were smashing so hard against them, I couldn't get very near them, because you know what it's like. In that situation, you can swim to the cliffs and pick your way along because it breaks the current up, which is always fine and has saved me many times. But I literally couldn't get close enough to the cliffs to tuck in and get out of the current. So yeah, I was in a real pickle, to be honest. It was very interesting, because I had a chat with my wife the other day about our early kind of years dating, and she said, "Oh, but I still can't believe this one time you stood me up." And I was like, I never did that. And then I realized that was the time I popped out for a dive, which was this particular dive. So it ended up being quite a long evening trying to undo that.
How did you get back in? Did you just try and hug the cliff line and work your way out of that current?
It was the most treacherous thing I've ever done in my life. So I couldn't swim against the current at all. Like, even full pelt, I was moving back. So I held on to I found this lobster pot for a bit and held on to that, and was trying to work out at which point the current would switch. And I realized it wasn't even like mid-tide yet. It wasn't even running hard. So I just went with the current for a while, and it was getting dark as well. So it was kind of a real clusterfuck. And in the end, I decided, well, the only thing I can do is just try and climb out on the rocks. So I had to discard a bit of gear, and I managed to get out on the rocks eventually in the swells, which was wafted up 3 or 4 meters, clinging on with both hands, and then just climbing up without my fins. And then I had to climb up a cliff, which was absolutely savage. And near the top of the cliff, it was where the rock gave way to grass, but it was really steep grass. So, oh my God, it was really, really sketchy, actually.
And after losing all that gear, that's when you decided to invest in a spearfishing equipment company, so that other people would have to pay you for losing gear.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. It was really bad. In hindsight, I was lucky to kind of not fall off a cliff and die. So
yeah. As
but,
happens.
You have to be honest about these things, don't you? I mean, I've not been perfect. I've had my share of fuck ups, and yeah.
What were your key takeaways from that? I know it may be spelling out the obvious, but I would love to just go into that, just for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, overnight I just developed a massive respect for the sea, and I made a deal with myself: if in doubt, I wouldn't get in. And I started learning much more about the conditions. I was fascinated from that moment on about why the pull of the tide was so strong. So I started, learning about tidal streams and
the bell curve
effect of bell curve, and also the effect swells can have on currents as well from beaches, and you start to realize that you do have to be really careful out there.
Currents are like, if you grow up around the beach and you see the huge amount of sand that's shifted in just one storm event, it gives you an appreciation for how much movement there can be over a very short span of time. And it is an interesting point that you bring up with elevated swell, and you identified a pinch point there and a number of other factors that they are all things that magnify current. And
100%.
And I think all of us have been out to spots where we've been surprised at the strength of the current, and then hopefully checked ourselves before we wrecked ourselves, because you can get caught in a flow, like you say, where you can't swim against it. And then it's like, well, what's my contingency plan? What's my secondary exit point? Who knows I'm out here? What time am I expected back? All those things go through your head.
Mm-hmm.
So,
100%. And I just did everything wrong on that day. I went out late evening. I went out alone. Went out in treacherous conditions, and it's hard. It takes a lot of courage to tell stories like this because it just does make you seem like a complete moron. But I think a lot of us are guilty of getting a bit overexcited sometimes and just, forgetting the power of Mother Ocean. But you can't. You have to always remember it.
Love it. Joe, I reckon we got 2 sections left to go before we're going to be out of time. Again, you're just another one of those blokes. I feel like we could probably chat for 5 hours if we had it. What is one of the funniest things that you've experienced out spearfishing?
Oh, God. Good question. Well,
you've heard of the Cornish sea turtle, eh? Did you listen to Sam Mumford's interview? Did you ever listen to that?
No, I missed that one.
He's from Cornwall, and I know you guys have a little healthy rivalry going on. He likes to pull the bottom of his wetsuit down when he needs to go and then just swim past people with just his bum sticking in the air and then, do his business. And that's a Cornish sea turtle. He sold it to me. I thought it was pretty funny. Is there a Devon alternative? You guys are more polite, eh?
Well, yeah, you see, we put the cream on first and then the jam on the scone. We use logic. No, I can't say that. When there's no Cornish person to defend themselves, it's
punching down.
Thing, but
it's punching down.
Yeah, exactly. I can't do that. I take that back. All Cornish viewers, listeners. There's no right or wrong way. So it's however you like it. But no, in terms of funny moments, there's so many. Again, it's hard to say. The most recent one I remember was on the halibut trip when we were getting rid of the fish frames. And it may not sound that funny, but at the time, Carl was pushing the fish frames out with a gaff, and obviously the gaff got caught in the fish frames, and the gaff's just plummeting off the bottom to the sea. And the one thing we were already in a bit of trouble with the lodge because I'm a bit of a buffoon when it comes to organisation, and she just called us to tell us we'd left the front door open and the oven on this particular day. I was like, for fuck's sake, And then Carl lost the gaff. Luckily, it bobbed up a few meters behind the boat. But I don't know, every trip has those funny stories, doesn't it? It's when you're out with mates, it's just a laugh. It's so much fun.
You're a man after my own heart. Last time I went to WA, I made a video as well, and none of my fuck-ups made it, but there were so many. I broke a GoPro, I hurt myself, I stabbed myself, I put a spear gun through the prop of a boat, and there were others as well. There were 5 of them, and they're each standalone dumb, but together just pointed a clear picture that I'm an absolute moron. But that keeps you humble, doesn't it? It just, and the other boys had a relentless stream of banter for me if they wanted to punch down, and we delighted in that, and that's part of the good trip, I reckon. Is to laughing at yourself and your mates.
That's it, 100%. Yeah.
Last question, brother. And everyone's got to go subscribe to Captain Joe PK on. If you're on Instagram, it's Captain_Joe PK. If you're on YouTube, it's just Joe PK. He's got a huge and very well loved and very well regarded YouTube channel, as evidenced by the fact that you've made the Noob Spearo top 20 spearfishing YouTube channels multiple times. And it's a cool channel. And even if you've slowed down a wee bit, it's understandable. Life gets busy. But last part of the show, Joe, Spearo Q&A. What would be your fish of a lifetime?
Oh, crikey. It might have to be that amberjack you mentioned earlier, because the whole trip was leading up to that. This is the ultimate thing to catch. And I probably shouldn't have really caught it on that trip. There was probably some luck involved. But we had been diving all week. And on this particular day, we've been diving all day relentlessly to try and catch them. And yeah, it was kind of that last moment of the day when the light was fading. We knew we had to get back in. And, diving down about 20 meters or so, and just the wall of them came in. And that was the first time I'd seen a big fish. Really big compared to what we have in the UK. So yeah, the amberjack has to be my fish of a lifetime. I'll never forget, the way they wafted in using a massive 140 spear gun with 4 bands, sort of palm of the hand on the butt to stop it knocking my teeth out. I just managed to get a really good shot, and then the breakaway, trying to pull it in for the next half hour.
Did that make a video?
Unforgettable.
Did you make a video about that?
Yeah, it did. It did. There's a video on the Azores on the channel, and it's I filmed it.
All right, cool. So Joe PK Azores to watch some of that footage. 2 questions, Joe. Who's been the most influential Spearo or Spearos in your journey in terms of shaping you and your views?
Good question. I think first of all it would have to be my friend Corey Jamshidi. Has he come on the show?
No.
He is just, his passion is obscene. I mean, I'll admit I'm becoming a bit more of a fair weather diver, but he is the guy who would be on the phone. It's like, come on, Mr. Pike, we're diving. Come on, you bell end, we're going. And like, no, and his motivation and enthusiasm is extraordinary. He's already been messaging me today. Like, he's relentless.
Love it. I love frothers like that. They're good to be around.
Yeah. Oh, he really is. And he's made me do a lot of those dives I wouldn't have otherwise done. And I love him for that. And probably I'd have to say D-Man as well. Like, the way he influenced the way I made videos and all of the trips we've done together. Like, he's a fountain of knowledge. He really is. I think when it comes to gear and technique and
100%.
Every time I go out with him, he does something and I think, why have I never thought of doing that?
Yeah.
A real privilege to dive with Mr. Man.
I like being around people like that too. Last question, Joe. Could you describe what the spearfishing experience means to you in 1 sentence?
Oh, God. That's a tricky one.
That's your sentence. You've just used it. Sorry, bro.
Oh, shit.
I'm just joking. Go for it.
Okay. Ultimate, calm, chilled, serene, wild food time.
Love it. That's good. You slammed a bunch of adjectives together there and made it work. I like it. Good stuff, Joe. Mate, you're a legend. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show, man. It's been a long time coming. You're welcome back anytime you like. I love what you do for our world. You have a big influence and you use it well. So Joe PK on YouTube, go and subscribe to this man. I've had a good time. Thanks for coming on the show, Joe.
So much for having me, Shrek. You are also a legend. And it'd be great to catch up after some more adventures I've done next year.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks so much.
Hey, legends. Hope you enjoyed Joe Pike today. Go and subscribe to this man on YouTube. He's an absolute champion. I hope the episode title, which was Creativity, Proper Gentlemanly Froth, Viral Halibut Vid, and the Dreaded Off-Season, was an apt title. We did cover a fair amount of ground. I hope you enjoy it. He's a very intelligent and thoughtful man, and I really enjoy watching his videos and seeing what he's up to. He has a very distinct style, and he's pretty humble as well. Hey, in 2 weeks, I start the WA series, and started off with a bang. It's Curly. Curly Jongidike. I'm butchering his name for sure. But he makes his own fins. Curly's Crackers, they're called. If you are in that sort of Margaret River region, south of Perth, very, very vibrant area. Quite a sort of dispersed spearfishing community. They don't seem to be too big into their local like organised scene. I don't know if it's the surfing culture that's affected the region or not, but it's pretty cool. And meeting some of these guys that crawl out of the woodworks, very cool. Like Curly's just a guy that reached out to me years and years ago, so it was really cool to interview him. We talk about making fins, protecting spots, and buddy diving. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks to the legends, the patrons putting fuel in the Noob Spearo outboard week by week. If you're just supporting the show on just for $1 an episode, it makes a huge difference. And I just want to thank you. My whole WA trip, as usual, funded in part by patron legends just like you, listening to the show, sharing it with your mates. Thanks, legends. I'll see you back in 2 weeks. In a world of cancel culture, we need to be bold and stand up. Ignore the self-censorship, have a laugh, and poke the bear or in this case, a shark, with Fuck the Taxman. Listeners get a free hat of their choice when they spend over $100 at noobspearo.com/taxman when they use the code at noobspearo with designs that capture the frustration of having your fish taxed. You'll love the FTTM long sleeve UV blocking fishing jerseys, t-shirts, hats, and more. Visit noobspearo.com/taxman. Use the code noobspearo to score a free hat of your choice when you spend $100 or more. Again, go to noobspearo.com/taxman. Ew!
Buying gear online can be tricky. You ask yourself the same questions. Will it arrive on time? Is it actually what I want? How much is the shipping going to cost? Great news, the name you can trust is Neptonics. Neptonics, solid gear that works. Visit Neptonics, buy tough gear. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. That's right, use the code NOOB10, N-O-O-B 10, to save 10% on your order at neptonics.com.
Hey, live it, breathe it with today's show sponsor, Adreno. They are the world's largest dive store, and they have an ever-growing range of equipment for frothers just like you. The store is staffed by legends who absolutely live and breathe the spearfishing lifestyle. Check it out. They have hassle-free returns. They've got a price match guarantee in Australia and always flat rate shipping, and you can even use Afterpay. Check them out at adreno.com.au. Noob Spearo's longest running partner. Massive thanks to them who keep powering the Noob Spearo podcast.